We are on. Hi, this is Michael Waits, and welcome to the India Game Changer, on which we discuss how technology innovation is reshaping the business landscape in India. Today, I am psyched. I am very excited to be joined by Chitresh Sharma, the CEO and co-founder of Refyne. Chitresh, thank you so much for coming on the show. How are you doing today?
Very good, Michael. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm really excited to be sharing and answering some of your questions. Pretty excited about this one of its kind podcast for India Tech.
Thank you. I'm very excited about this as well. You know, one of the things you said to me before we started recording was that things feel a little chaotic. And I always tell people, you know, I live in Bangkok, and everybody looks at Bangkok and thinks, oh my God, it's so much chaos. And I always say to them the same thing. It may look like that from the outside, but inside there's order inside that chaos, which makes it really useful. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there. Can you give our audience a little bit of your background for some context?
Fantastic. Yeah, I agree with you. Every founder I think out there is looking for order and chaos in some way or other form. Always looking for templates that are predictable in nature. My background here, Michael, is I'm a two-time founder. I've been lucky to be starting my career very early on. So my first startup was when I was 19. It was just out of your day-to-day life. You see a few friends who are devs, and you spot an opportunity where digitalization was just hitting it up, and there are a lot of companies that were outsourcing work to India, for more economies of scale. And
Yep.
we just happened to patch on the idea, and IT outsource company was formed, and we were basically doing the digital marketing experience, and we were creating websites and helping businesses out from the UK, to create everything digitally at a much more economical way in. And that company been going for 10 years now. I ended up going for my master's in Scotland, Glasgow, and I continued working on it, and we actually ended up getting some government projects there. We were creating, again, softwares for them, and it continued as a company. And now we have clients in UK, Dubai, and India, all HQ'd from Glasgow. My second company was right out of my university's destination. We found that there's a massive gap in the market where data was being used by big brands, wherein the medium to small brands had no clue about who their customers. It's weird to have see these big companies use CRM to understand their customers,
Right.
but the small medium businesses have no clue who's walking in, who they are, what they're going to be and more importantly, whether they're going to be coming back and how can they influence the behavior. And that got the idea of Swipey. We became one of Europe's first CLO technology based startup where we partnered with all the banks. We allowed people to link their debit or credit cards into the app, and every time they shop, they got cash back. We work with 3,000 brands there, scaled the company as the CEO and founder for 8 odd years. And to be honest, there was never a plan to stay back in the UK, but it really did allow me to start something from scratch with no connection, be it friends or family. You're an alien to a new country, right?
Right.
And starting something there, is quite interesting in the sense that you learn so much. I think that's been the biggest university of my life, where I actually believed that every morning I got up was to a new class, to a new lesson, and that lesson just stays with you for life, right? I really mean it. And I think that's the reason I stayed there for 8 years, even though I had no plans to stay back in the UK and I wanted to build something in India. But it was quite an interesting time where I got connected to the global investor community. I got invested connected to the global corporate world, and started to make a name. And I was humbled to be recognized as one of the fastest growing entrepreneurs startups in the UK, where I had the opportunity to sit with some of the best and the best of other entrepreneurs. And to be honest, that got me moving to my next idea, which was Refyne. But this time I was strong headed to do it in India. So I came back in India 2020, started working on a lot of surveys and trying to prove hypothesis. So this is another one big learning, right? When you've done a startup 8 years down, you understand how important it is to find a product market fit before you just have an idea and get going with it, right?
Exactly. Can I back up for a second? I want to dig a little bit deeper. Are these two businesses that you started when you were in the UK, are they still running?
Yes, they've been going for, I think the first one has been going for almost 10 years now. The second one's going for almost 7.5 years now.
And did you sell either one of those businesses?
In the first business, I'm still, an advisor.
Right.
On the second business, I'm still the second biggest, shareholder in the company. Just before the COVID, we were looking for an exit, but those chats went to stumble because of the COVID situation there.
Right.
But we're back on the game, and the team's pulling up the weight, and we're hoping to see a potentially successful destination.
And when you went to the UK, you said you got a master's degree, but you also got an undergraduate degree in the UK as well. Is that right?
No, I did get my undergrad degree from India. It was just master's degree from UK.
Or when you went to university, I think is kind of the better question. Did you always intend to start your own business, or was it something that, just sort of came out organically, and by the time it just got too big, there was no way you could go get a job or would want to go get a job? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good question. To be honest, I always from early days believed I'm unemployable because
Wait, tell me why.
the only experience to be honest, I have in my resume working for a company was back in the days at Hollister, helping with the clothing line and managing the back end piece.
Yeah.
And that lasted.
And that lasted what you said?
Yeah, so it was pretty clear that I was unemployable. I mean, how could someone last 72 hours in such a, low expecting job and never tried to apply for any other company after. I knew that.
I missed a little bit of what you said. So you only lasted 72 hours on that job at Hollister. And why was that? You just like couldn't take it, or you just didn't like being bossed around? What was it?
I think it's less of being bossed around. I just don't think that I was able to understand so many things coming my way without the reasons. And that became another big lesson, right? Like people telling you to do things without telling you why to do things. I
Right.
think the why is the most crucial part.
Of course.
And to be honest, I'm crazy to think that at that level, I mean, let's just put it in the most candid way. You're a store guy, right?
Yeah.
So I was a store guy there, and you're just supposed to walk heads down and you
Yeah.
fold
Don't
the
ask me.
clothes.
Like,
That's it.
you're not getting paid to
Yeah,
think, right? Just do what
yeah,
I tell you to do.
yeah. And in those 72 hours, I think I had six different confrontation with my manager of trying to recommend him better ways to do things that was told to me, and it was a very
That's
good reason for me to get out of the door
that's the
and not
greatest
even
thing I've
try
ever.
my.
Oh my God, that's the
I would.
greatest thing I've ever heard.
I know.
When you went home and told your parents that like you were fired or you quit, were they surprised?
The beauty is I didn't tell them I got hired, and so I didn't need to tell them I got fired.
That's awesome.
It was quite interesting because my parents, usually you get an allowance from your parents. You're
Yep.
early on in your career. You're 23. Oh, sorry, I'm 20. I was 21 then,
Right.
and you're just, the parents were expected to send allowance. But the beautiful thing happened with my IT company is that after 3 months, I didn't need money from my parents
Good for
because
you.
we were making a decent chunk at personal level. Was making decent than any other part-time job would have ever fetched me, and that would just getting three or four clients at best. And that was a great learning lessons because I got closer to these small medium businesses. I had no clue about digital marketing,
Right.
and I think that became the building block. So I think things that start early on is never a plan. It's what is happening on a day-to-day experience. You just gotta have to make sure you are keeping an eye for the problems, and just happens that I like to hear problems and try to recommend solution,
I love it.
and clearly that doesn't work as a store guy.
You'll love this. I was on a recording yesterday with a Swiss guy. He's also an entrepreneur. He's a little bit older than you, right?
Mhm.
And he was telling me that same thing when he was in university. Actually, when he was in high school, he started a business. He started another one in university, and they were making a decent amount of money. But he went into the army, he said. And in the Swiss army, he met a guy that said, when I graduate from the army, I'm going to go get a job at Credit Suisse, which is a big bank or investment
Yes.
bank. So he said, okay, I'll do the same thing. And it's kind of like you. He went there. It's a good paying job. It was interesting work. And at the end of the year, he said his boss told him what his bonus was, his year end bonus. And he was just like, okay. And his boss thought, aren't you super happy? And he said, I mean, it's not bad and the work's not bad, but I make much more money in my side business
Exactly.
than I make in this business.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's the problem with the entrepreneurs, right? That they don't want to hear instruction. They want to at least know why behind it. And I think it's not just entrepreneur, it's any enterprising person out there,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And that's usually a key bug in, I think, founders' brain. Most of the founders, if you've seen them in the corporate world, they probably left at some point The reason will be associated to why.
Absolutely.
Like,
Look,
why are you telling me to do this?
I loved when you said I'm unhireable. I just love it because I say this all the time about me. It's not that I'm not smart enough. It's not that I don't have enough experience. I have plenty of experience, but I'm completely unhireable because I cannot have somebody tell me what to do without knowing the
Without the
reason.
why.
I just don't. If you don't tell me why, and even when I was a kid, I was like this. My dad would say, "Just do this." I'm like, "Why?" He'd be like, "Don't
I
ask
know.
why. Just do it." I'm like, "But why?" Completely
Only if people
unhireable.
knew why, things would have been much better.
Yeah, like if I just had the reason, I would do it and I would be good at it. But just tell me why. Anyway, I want to learn more about Refyne, right? So
Sure.
you were committed to doing this in India. Why were you so committed to doing it in India in the first place?
So, firstly, come from a very traditional Indian family, traditional in ways of being very closely,
Understood.
together, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
I think that never died in me. It was always that I want to get closer to my family. Who am I? Like, you get to ask yourself question in your 8 years journey in foreign. Why are you here? Why are
Right,
you doing this? Who are
right.
you doing this for? Right?
Yeah,
If you can't celebrate small moments or milestones with the ones that matter, then what's the whole point? And
right.
that's the worst time, right? That's the worst question, the worst position to be in, because the only person you're fighting is yourself in the mirror, right?
Correct.
And that kind of answer doesn't come very easy on, and you gotta have to make some hard decisions. So, and to be honest, I got married, and my wife had enough of Scotland too. So that was another big reason. I think she helped me navigate the high and low tides of my life. So I think that is exactly why I wanted to build in India. I mean, I felt that I had good experience. I've learned a lot from fintech. We were a fintech startup at Swipey. So I felt that I want to do fintech because, hey, I have 8 years of experience and I
Right.
want to do and use it in the best way. And more importantly, the contacts. I think one of the most underrated things is, a lot of founders, amazing entrepreneurs will tell people that do not worry about asking people out, right, for
Yeah.
any help, and
Yep.
people will do it. I swear on God, that's exactly what happened in my life. Like,
Yeah.
there are people ready to give you time. It's just a bad pre-assumption to think people are busy and they're not gonna, give you time. And you just need one person, or and to be honest, I had a couple of few of them in my life that would be okay to hear ideas from me and crazy enough to believe in me.
Right.
And I think the connection and the contacts is the most important things, and you combine that with experience, you've got a very strong mix to start something again. I mean, to be honest, it took me 3 years to do our proper funding back in the UK. Like, I mean, we got angel investment from day one. To be honest, we were
Right.
lucky, but 3 years for a proper VC investment. I think it's 2.5 years or something. And you do the same thing in India. You're looking for a big problem. You're trying to make an impact, and you understand what you're looking for. I mean, you don't understand what you're looking for, but you understand you're looking for something big, right? You're
Yep.
wanting to change people's life for better. And the moment you get it, you have so much belief that the story automatically
Tells
comes
itself.
out.
Yeah, it just tells
Yeah,
itself.
right. It's so, and all you need to do is do the hard work of validating those hypotheses, whether it's by a pilot, whether it's picking up the phone to people. Believe it or not, I think we spoke to close to 5,000 people who have taken different ways of microfinancing to understand their situation. So we had a lot of data from the user side. We had a lot of, I think we spoke to close to 56, different corporate CHROs. So we had a lot of data to prove our validation. And we got really lucky. Again, my network back in the UK had already invested in EWA, on
Right.
which access we had. So it was easy sell. They understood the market, they understood the product. It was just making them believe that India was a much more bigger market than the markets they have earlier invested in EWA. And that is exactly what happened.
Yeah. Talk to me about Refine. Talk to me about some of the market research that you did, and then maybe you can just explain what earned wage access solutions are, and then maybe talk about why it's so important for India per se. Is that fair?
Sure. Yeah, makes sense. So I think, going back to the very beginning, I had 27 ideas, right, to
Yep.
be honest. And
Sure.
it took me a year to funnel down to top one, like just the one that I can 100% focus on. The idea was to understand and help people elevate their personal finances, right? It just happened naturally. I met my co-founder. He's from microfinancing background, so he understood the problem they were trying to see, and they were not able to cater. So there was a massive gap in the market. What we found that India as a country is moving really rapidly, as you're aware, with consumptions
Yes.
and so on.
Yes.
Wherein the finance side, if you ask fintech, usually was in when the time I came, it was associated either with UPI or
Yep.
so your payment world or lending world, and the lending world is so big in India because there is a massive unorganized market in the country, because most of the people that are trying to figure out help for their mid-month crisis issue or any issue, they're probably not the focus of the bank because of restricted credit scoring mechanics.
Yeah.
Credit scoring is very new to India. So how are you going to base your risk assessment before giving away money to people?
Right.
And how do you assess whether they have the intent to pay back, right? And I think that was very new in India. The credit score is still going. I don't think it's reached even at a level it should be today. A lot of people are still figuring out the entire credit scheme market, especially the unorganized sector, or employees who are making under $1,200 per month. And when these people needed money, they were forced to go to microfinances. They were forced to go to money lenders, and worse to worse, they were also forced to take money from loan shark, local loan shark. They're the worst, right?
They're terrible. So in India, these people with this type of employment, they get paid at the end of every month, right? That's just standard
Yes,
operating practice. And so that means during the month.
yes.
That means during the month, if they have some kind of cash flow problem, even an unplanned one where something bad happens, let's say like their car breaks down and they need to fix a tire, even if they didn't overspend, right? So you're saying that what Refine does is it gives them access to their salary before they get paid?
Yes, you're absolutely right. So in a country like India where you're paid 30 to 45 days, sometimes I've seen 60 days, when you are going through a mid-month crisis, it can be as easy, a normal situation as what you said. Or during COVID times, there were people standing at pharmacies not having enough money to pay for medicine, even though they work for it, right?
Yep.
And because the consumption is so high, majority of people we interviewed found that they were living neck to neck, how to hand to mouth, and there were not enough savings to be accessible to help them these with problems. So we wanted to revolutionize by giving people the power of pay and break the pay cycle of 30, 60 days, and just allow people to access their earnings any time of the month. So we are the first EWA market, and that's exactly what on wage access means, is you get to access what you worked for in less than 30 seconds from an app, without any bureaucracy, without any paperwork. So if 2 a.m. my daughter needs to be seen to a doctor for some emergency, I don't need to worry about doing paperwork. I can access the salaries in my pocket. I work for it, and I'm not forced to hunt for credit deals, which are usually very predatory in nature. Because if you need one, they give you six, and the entire EMI debt trap that gets you from one trap to another. So with this, it's very easy, right? You've done your digital KYC, so we follow all the norms, and you can access your salary in 30 seconds, which works 24/7, 365 days a year, right? So you can use this literally anytime.
Where does the money come from, right? In other words, I have an app, like you said, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I have some kind of emergency. Where's the cash coming from? In other words, you're not like, are you going, does the company provide that money? Where does the cash come from?
Yeah, companies. We usually work with companies with 1,000+ employees, so it's really hard to expect them to break the working capital cycle or
Yep.
pay cycle,
Yep.
because they have heavily invested in the 30-day cycle or 45-day cycle, right? So what we do is we become the partner where we fund in between the month requirement through our NBFC partner, and we're becoming an NBFC ourselves. So in order to be compliant with RBI, you need to be an NBFC in India. So we
What
we
does that,
we
what does
make
that
sure that
mean?
the non-banking financial company.
Yep.
So there's a law where you cannot
I understand.
lend any form. Yeah. So we basically get our NBFC partner when a request comes. We build a system where the money is streamed from our NBFC partner's bank account
Got
to
it.
the employee's bank
Yep.
account. 30 seconds. So the employer doesn't need to do anything. The beauty is the process, the payroll amount, the technology. Nothing needs to change from an employer side. It's just like nothing changed, and you're now able to pay your employees every day. So it's actually a big win-win on both sides, if that makes sense.
And what does it mean at the end of the month? Let's say just for easy math, right? I get paid $1,000 a month and I have
Hmm.
an emergency. or I take out money during the month, even if it's not an emergency, right? If I have access to that cash, I have access to it, so it
Yes.
doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yep.
Let's say I take out during that month $800 on my normal
Mhm.
payday. What do I get? $200.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So
Okay,
usually you will not be given 100% of what you've accrued.
I understand.
We want to make sure there's enough left for you to pay your fixed bills.
Yep.
So we give anywhere between 30 to 70% access. So you whatever is taken from by the app is automatically deducted and reconciled at the time of payroll. So you're absolutely right with that example. That $200 will be in your hand because you've already consumed $800 from Refine's app.
And where does the money get made? In other words, does the NBFC, do you charge the employees money to take the money out, or is it free to them, but the company pays for it? Where's the money get made?
So we use mix and match, but our core offering, we are India's first zero interest or zero processing product, means we do not charge any interest or anything in that requires calculation, or it's tough for people to understand what they'll be paying, which is another big, huge problem that people get onto these credit
Right,
schemes
and they're just
and they
screwed
have
because they have no
no
idea.
clue what these percentage and
Right.
points means, decimals all around, right? And we
Get it.
wanted to simplify that. So we keep it slab based, so it's a transaction fee, just like you would expect by paying your, withdrawing money from ATM or something, where you pay a small transaction fee every time you transact between the slabs, which is very visible in the app before people transact. So they are very clear that if I use the $800, I'll be paying $2. They are very clear. There's no discrepancies or confusion around what can happen. And the beauty with our technology integration with employee means that the employee doesn't need to remember when they have to pay back because it's all done automatically. They
Right.
don't just don't need to do anything differently.
Again, I want to just make sure that we understand
Hmm.
this. In a normal setup, right, there's an employer and a direct deposit into an employee's bank account. Yeah, Mr. A. And what you're
Yep.
saying is you sit in between there now
Hmm.
and you connect to that person's payroll.
Exactly.
And if I pull out $100 out of my $1,000 salary, the company gets notified. Now it's only 900,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
I paid $2 to get access to my money or some fee. Yeah,
Absolutely.
and it doesn't matter if I, let's say I make $20,000 a month. If I take $1,000, I still pay $2 transaction fee.
It does changes on the amount slightly. So we have different slabs. We have close to nine slabs, but it's very visible to people what they'll be paying. So it's
Right.
never gonna be. So in the best way to define is we're gonna be one fourth of the most optimized credit card pricing there.
Yeah,
So it's one of the cheapest access you can get.
and is it a digital wallet or can I go to like a physical ATM and take money out? Like how does that work logistically?
Now we're getting into the what's very soon going to be launching a Refyne. So that's exciting that you asked the question. So right now the money is guaranteed to reach in your bank account 30 seconds. If not, it's free into your salary account. So you don't need to change your salary account. You can be banking with any banker. Very soon, with soon up partnership launching, you'll be able to withdraw cash from different ATMs too.
Got it. Okay, got it. That's really interesting. How big is this market?
I think it's a huge market. 86% of the employed population is our target TG, close to 200 billion being processed. So it's a very huge market because what you're doing with EWA, I always tell people EWA is not the destination, right? On wage access is a journey of trust. Finance means only one word, it's trust. How do you build trust for your users? And the entire idea of EWA is give these people a chance to build a better credit score, be it civil score, be it refined score, which can then be used to tailor and personalize other financial product, be it insurance, be it buy now pay later, or your positive debt like education loan or house loan or micro saving investment. So the idea is to bring that personalized banking experience on palm of your hand without you having to visit a branch or opening another account or switching your account. So, but the only way you can achieve that is one of the core product you've deployed. People need to trust you as a company. People need to trust you with their emergency needs or lifestyle needs. And once you're able to deliver the value, then you're talking about a completely different market size.
Exactly. So this is my favorite kind of business. Basically what you're doing is you're providing a product to people that they need desperately. In other words, they wake up every day and surely a wife who has a job is talking to her husband and says, I'm going to earn this money if I could just have access. And her husband says, oh, just download the app. Like it just works, right? So you know you have
Exactly.
that.
Absolutely.
And once you create that trust, for me, now I start thinking, like you said, but I want to say this explicitly again. If you have, India's 1 point something billion people, if 86% of them, pick a number, it's a very large number, 700 million people, I don't know, right? But if you have some of them on there, create a digital wallet that then provides them with all of these financial services, not just the non-bank FC stuff, right? Now you have maybe you have the opportunity to create the first digital bank, which I think would be super interesting, but also be a big channel for insurance distribution, which is also low in India compared to the Western world.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
You're absolutely right. So you're kind of creating almost like a financial stack
Yep.
where you're giving people chance who are not the focus of the premium banking institution yet. It's not that they're not interested, it's just the background information on these people is limited, and you're giving them a chance to have a much brighter financial future,
Right.
and you are encouraging them to be regular, avoid absenteeism, and be respectful where you're working. And if you are doing that, then you're a very good target market profile for other financial product, as you rightly said, right? So is making sure you have a more robust way to figure out people's intent to use these service and their ability to pay back, and using it in a respectful manner. So you're kind of creating a refined score in that instance, and all that without changing the bank account. So I think in ways you've described it really well.
Yeah. What are you doing on the data side?
Well, that's a very good question for my CTO, which happens to be from that background. I think one of the beauties is, again, lessons learned from past. We've been GDPR compliant from day one, believe it or not. So we do take hard consents every time people use. So we have three different layers of consent. So we make sure that data is, because as I rightly said, again, it's all about trust,
Yep.
right? And any misuse or any unintentional leak of data can result in break of that trust, and that is make or break for us. So we take that very, very seriously. Hence, for an early stage startup, which is only 6 months, we have an ISO certificates, and we are GDPR compliant, and we are RBI compliant. So we make sure that every check box is tick mark,
Yep.
because the enterprise are not going to trust you with their employee base if you're not able to prove them that you have the team, you have the tech, you have all the required certificates to protect their data. And we have huge Chinese wall between all the employees. So the data is only used for the services promised. We do not upsell any product. We do not, advertise anything. It's purely on wage access to which the users have given the consent. So we are being very respectful of what the consent has been asked.
Yeah, it's a good idea to start that at the beginning. If you cannot do that later, it's just so much, it's just fundamentally non-trivial later that
Absolutely.
you have to do it from the start, right?
Yeah. If not, one day you're gonna get an email and you need to be GDPR compliant, like what happened in the UK, and we had to go back to 1.6 million people
Right.
for their consent.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah, not a good place to be in.
The earlier you do it, the better off you are.
Exactly.
So I don't want to take up a ton more of your time, but you just did a fundraise as well, right?
Yes.
I was going to ask you if there were challenges of doing this during COVID, but probably not, right? Because the market you're serving is kind of indifferent to, do you know what I mean, the pandemic in a way?
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you. No, I was just saying you're absolutely right. I think there are certain types of vertical, and to be honest, during the COVID times, market has been way more supportive of ideas, ready to
Sure.
go after your traditional or new age problems. So we've been lucky. Again, coming back to our previous chats about the connections, you got the trust, you got the belief, because you've done this twice. People tend to trust you, and if they've already invested in similar ideas, it's a great benchmark for them. So they know the team, they know the idea. You give them the hypothesis and validation, go to market strategy for the market you're going after,
Right.
and bazinga, you got people very keen to partner with you. And then we've been lucky to have some amazing partners there.
Is this the largest round you've ever raised, or did you raise larger rounds for your other companies?
It is probably the largest round I've raised. What we didn't do in 7.5 years, we did it in 6 months. So it's quite an experience.
Do you feel an extra amount of pressure on you because of that, or are you just like indifferent to that pressure and just going to go out and build even bigger because you have more cash on hand?
So I think that's a very interesting question because I don't think, I mean, I'm not trying to be a politician here or diplomat, but I think it's not about pressure. It's about responsibility of the culture, right?
Yep, better word.
Because yeah, there are like 85 people's life dependent on you, and 600,000 people life depending on you, because you're creating something that changes people's life every day, impacts people's life every day. So there is a huge responsibility, and this is, we're going to be hitting a million employee mark hopefully before end of the year. All of a sudden that adds up to your responsibility, and I think one of the biggest USPs, I mean biggest reason for us to be where we are today is because of our culture. We have been very careful and very clear that culture eats, strategy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yep.
So we gotta make sure that we have the best culture, which gives the best platform to people, and the best talent will, automatically be attracted to what you're doing, and that is exactly what we have seen, right? We have had zero churn since we launched, and we strongly believe that it's all about people, and that particular strategy and focus in people and culture has really helped us to be where we are and to achieve what we achieved in just 7 months.
Culture is a multifaceted thing, right? Because there's the internal company culture, the way that employees treat each other, regardless of level and hierarchy. There's also a
Yeah.
way that employees and the company treats its partners, its business partners, and also the
Hmm.
way it treats its customers. And they can
Hmm.
get mixed around, right, as well. How would you describe that culture? In other words, if you were purposeful about building it, what's the culture that you want to build if you could describe it for me?
Sure. Our head of marketing, Pushkina, defines it is in the best way possible, and
Tell
I,
me.
I am just love with that statement. Culture is what people do when no one's watching,
Yeah. So, okay.
right?
Yeah.
And culture starts internally, and that is exactly what is reciprocated externally. If you don't have a happy, or a people enabler culture, you're likely not going to have the culture externally either. If you can't take care of your employee partners,
Yeah.
don't expect them to take care of your clients or channel partners. I think just it's simple, right?
Yeah. Impossible.
If you, yeah, and that has been there out in the market. You've seen some of the best cultures that have made it big, like Stripe, right? Netflix, and there have been times where great ideas have fallen because the culture starts to, and culture doesn't just deteriorate over, a short period of time, right? People put a lot of trust in companies when they join, so you gotta really have screwed up your job for them to leave after, first year, second. They won't just leave tomorrow, and some may actually leave tomorrow. So you gotta be very careful of, always working on strategies, and taking rituals seriously, right? Because that brings trust, and again, I keep using the word trust. It is a very critical part of what we do. Internal trust will build, external trust, and so forth. And so it's kind of reinforcing self-sustaining cycle. I think the odds are very high that you shouldn't even have a place where people are unhappy to work, right? There's nothing to gain out of it. So why not work on people? And because those are the people who are going to make you, who's going to make the idea success or a failure.
Exactly.
So you might as well make sure that everyone feels the ownership and clarity and alignment on what, again, going back to what we just said, right? Why are we doing this? Right?
Yeah.
People need to be clear why are they doing things, and that's what the founder should be working on, to be honest.
Absolutely. Okay, Chitresh, that is a great way to end. I really want to thank you again, Chitresh Sharma, the CEO and co-founder of Refyne, for coming on and doing this. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Michael, for having me. It was quite a chat, really interesting questions, and hopefully you got things to share to wider community. Thank you so much for having. Have a lovely evening.